back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. A busy weekend for the Baltimore Ravens, and John Harbaugh speaking to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes on Monday night. But on Friday, it was Alex Collins in a ditch and then released. And, of course, it was C.J. Mosley in the snow, not in a ditch. Dennis Koulatsos is here, and I know you're much more interested in all things Combine. It is your favorite event, and I skipped it this year even, Dennis. I talked myself out of going to Indianapolis for the proceedings after trying to talk you into it for the last decade. Not a good look for the Ravens over the weekend, right? Like, it's just a whole weird set of circumstances. All the things you don't want in the offseason, which is players on social media drunk, players going into a ditch with weed in their car and falling asleep, letting the cops come and find it with them. The whole thing was just not a good look for the Ravens right now. That's all I'm going to say.
No, I know about the Alex Collins story, but I don't know about the other story. So if you can catch me up briefly, what happened?
You're not on Instagram, C.J. Mosley?
I am, but I have a brand new grandbaby, so that's been taken up a lot of my time. So I was holding my grandbaby yesterday and watching the Underwear Olympics, so that was my whole focus. I didn't see anything on Instagram. So
C.J. Mosley, at some time after 2 a.m. On Thursday night when the snow was falling, apparently was somewhere downtown inebriated, put the video on himself and talked about how he wanted to be in Baltimore and that he was running around in the snow. He was tremendously profane and tremendously inebriated, and then at the end talked about franchising me, just try me, it was one of these. Okay. It was a ranting, rambling, drunk thing that he may have said at the end of the bar at 2 o'clock in the morning that he put on Instagram and quickly scrubbed and removed that various internet types have taken out and reshared, and I caught it probably about 6:30 in the morning. When I woke up, I saw it on his Instagram. I guess he took it off when he woke up. And I thought to myself, I really like CJ. This was not a real good move by CJ, and I think CJ would agree with that. But along the negotiation path here, then this is it, right? They're either going to keep him or they're not going to keep him. They're going to franchise him, they're going to sign him, whatever they're going to do. Your thoughts on C.J. Mosley? Because you and I haven't stretched that out as to where his value is, because in previous years, the Ryan Jensens, the Osemales, those guys that the Ravens just said too rich for my blood, $15 million a year might be too rich for their blood for C.J. Mosley, right?
Well, yeah, you and I haven't talked about it, Nestor, and I've been very quiet about C.J. Mosley because before this thing came out that you just made me aware of, I had grown tired of seeing C.J. and a few other Ravens the night before games in Federal Hill. I don't think it's a good look. They were down there the night before the playoff loss to the Chargers. They were a bit lethargic, so I don't know how much of that plays into. And the thing is, if we know that they're hanging out in Federal Hill the night before a game, you can bet the Ravens brass know that they're also doing the same thing. So I would expect more from C.J. Mosley as a leader. We talk about his leadership ability and his on-field performance. He's great against the run, not so great against the pass. I thought he's worth about $10 million a year. Most of my friends think 12 to 13. Top 10 is 15, which I guess is what he's expecting.
Well, if you think it's 10, he's gone then, right? If your value is 10, someone else will value him more. I guess that's the point.
Because my thing is just the off-field stuff now, and that I've been seeing all along, and I haven't said a word about it, and also his poor pass coverage. So I think they can replace him adequately. There was a couple of inside linebackers that really improved their stock during the draft. Not that that's the direction that the Ravens are going to necessarily go into, but they do have Kenny Young. They do have Patrick Onwaso. They could slide down Tony Jefferson to play linebacker as the NFL has gotten quicker to defend against the pass. They have some meat up front with Pierce and Williams. But this to me is not a good look. I don't like when athletes do these type of things, of course, whether it's C.J. Mosley or Antonio Brown. But for the Ravens' purposes, it's got to be the right player, right price. And I don't know how hard C.J. works in the offseason. I think they will know better than I do. But to me, he's kind of flatlined. And I get the Pro Bowls, but I don't know how many of those are based on reputation. The fact, he is the captain of the Ravens defense versus actual on-field performance.
Dennis Koulatsos here. He is, of course, the SSV on WNST. He'll be here on Thursday from 3 until 5. Also back on Sunday mornings and opining regularly. I know with the grandchild coming, the timing wasn't perfect for you to be all combined up. But this is where the Ravens need to make hay, and this is where Eric DeCosta needs to make hay. I saw this kid with the 1.6% body fat, which I don't believe.
He'd be dead. He would be dead. That's what Joe Thomas said. There's no way he has 1.68 body fat. You can't survive with that low body fat.
I'm cold right now, and it's wintertime. I got heated stuff going on in the studio. The combine, I think, brings its promise, but for me, when I put it on, it just sort of aligns me with the fact that Mike Mayock's running the Raiders, who the coaches are, who this Matt LaFleur guy is, the fact that the Ravens are now trying to piece together things around Lamar Jackson, and the Le'Veon Bell stories out there, and the Antonio Brown nightmare is out there as well. A lot of moving parts in football right now, and I guess that's the thing you see over the weekend is, yeah, we got our problems with C.J. Mosley, and we got our offensive issues, and we're going to get our draft pick for Flacco, and we're trying to figure out Weddle and Suggs. But everybody's got all that going on right now, and this is the time of the year where speculation's crazy, and the agents are swooping in for money. I'm not sure Suggs is coming back, Dennis. I'm really not. I don't know whether the Ravens are going to value him more or whether another $1 million or $2 million that Arizona or the Chargers or somebody else would throw at him would make him want to go to the West Coast, or how valuable it is to him that he never wears another helmet.
Well, in the past, Nestor, the Ravens would never increase the players' stock based on the great combine. I think back to Mike Mamula, who went to the Philadelphia Eagles and had a great combine, and he was a decent player that just never lived up to his draft position, like many of them often don't do. But they will not increase their player stock on the board. Now, they will decrease a player stock if he falls short on the combine, if he doesn't run a fast enough 40, if he doesn't bench press enough, if the three-cone drill isn't what it's supposed to be, if he doesn't jump high enough, depending on position. That's why DK Metcalf, he ran a ridiculous 4.33. But to me, okay, so you have a great athlete. That doesn't mean it's going to translate to performance on the field. His three-cone wasn't that good, didn't show much explosiveness, which means I don't know if he can get into and out of his cuts properly. He can run fast down the field, but you know what? So could Rashard Perriman, right? Can he catch the ball? And that's why I still think most scouts, including the Ravens scouting department, they put much more stock in game film than they do with the combine. It's something to look at for sure, something to consider, but certainly not the end or be all. We saw, Orlando Brown Jr., first round draft pick, pre-combine, and he drops to the third round for the Ravens. They roll him out there, and guess what? We have ourselves a football player, right? And thankfully so. But that combine did cost the money, as that combine right now is making several guys a lot of money.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. He'll be here on Thursday, the SSV on WNST, and monitoring all things Steelers as well as Ravens. The Le'Veon Bell and the Antonio Brown thing, speak to me about that, because Le'Veon Bell as a Raven, as a football player in this offense with what they're trying to do, I'll sign off on that. Le'Veon Bell, the guy that turned down $14 million and didn't want to play for the Steelers, I don't... and for the amount of money that allegedly he was looking for before, I don't understand the market so well, but I would be shocked if Bell or Brown are here, as much as Bell has been tied to the situation here. I don't see the Ravens breaking the bank for him.
No, neither one of those players for different reasons. Todd Gurley got a $45 million guarantee a year ago for the Rams. He just has been diagnosed with arthritis in his left knee. Needs maybe microfracture surgery, and that's a problem with giving a running back that kind of a guarantee. And if it were me, I would draft. If I'm the Ravens, if Josh Jacobs from Alabama is there at 22, for instance, I'd much rather invest a first-round draft pick in Josh Jacobs. The guy can have for 4 or 5 years their rookie contract, than tie up $40-45 million on Le'Veon Bell, who not only has some mileage on him, but the off-field issues. And my concern with Bell is how would he perform once that pen came off the contract? Where would his motivation be? Antonio Brown has said all the wrong things, and you're going to need an organization that has an awfully strong front office, an awfully strong head coach to be able to deal with him and his ego. But neither one of those players, I can't see either one of them wearing a Ravens uniform, not now and not ever.
Dennis, for you with the rest of the league and seeing this thing get put together on the draft and seeing where the quarterbacks begin last week and where they end at the end, the next 7 weeks are always about the quarterbacks and where they're going to be and what Arizona's in the marketplace for. And there's always, the golden child. And this year, obviously, that has already been selected. We're 6 weeks out on the draft, and this is the first chance we really start to put names with teams and where we are. But the Ravens draft so far down, it becomes a little harder from a fan standpoint because there are 6 or 8 names you could throw around right now when you draft at the point that I remember where Calvin Ridley was the name, this time last year. Right? I mean, it's always a name, and whatever name it is, it rarely winds up being the same name come the last weekend of April, right?
Yeah, they have so many different holes. They can use a rush end, inside linebacker, running back, or wide receiver, offensive lineman, and I'm sure they have 5 to 7 players they expect to be there, hope to be there at 22. And if the player they want isn't there, hopefully they have a trade partner at 22 where they can move back and maybe pick up that second-round draft pick that they gave up when they got Lamar Jackson last year. But the worst case scenario for the Ravens is that the players of desire aren't there. No one wants to trade with them, and they have to turn in their draft card probably for the best player available at their highest position of need. So that's the intriguing part of the draft.
And sometimes that turns into Ed Reed, by the way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, So if but hopefully there's a Red Star player that they desire at that spot, and if there isn't, hopefully someone will give them some draft capital. It's a very deep draft. They'll be able to come over with some good players. But to me, the player at number 22 or past that in the first 2 days, they've got to come up with some starters in that group, and that's what we expect. And sometimes in Nestor, it's an offensive lineman, right? A lineman that can play, multiple positions, durable, with a good track record, good productivity in college, and I'm okay with them shoring up the offensive line. I think that'll help the running game. It'll certainly will help Lamar Jackson in finding and getting him more time to find, hopefully, some receivers that are open downfield.
Sometimes somebody comes out to Coons Florida Security Boulevard and they buy a car and they think they want it. Maybe they think they wanted a Mustang and they have to trade in and get something else. How about the Arizona Cardinals on the Josh Rosen thing, right? Like, how quickly things turn around 11 months later. I mean, what would the Ravens trade Lamar Jackson for now, right? Or whatever. But it's fascinating that last year's best decision, when the Browns are annually doing this, but that already they've decided, maybe we should move him on for a second or a third round pick, huh?
Yeah, and he was a top 10 pick last year, Nestor. So that tells you in a very good quarterback class of a year ago. And the nice thing is these days you're not married to the quarterback because they're not getting that huge rookie contract. Case in point is Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson doesn't take the next step, if the Ravens don't see him improving, getting better, getting a better grasp of the game, taking care of the ball better, being more accurate, they can certainly move away from him because it's only going to cost them a couple $1 million to do so, right? Where in the past you were going to hope for $50, $60, $70 million, and you have to live with a player, live with a contract, justify to the owner why you drafted this quarterback, where you could have gotten somebody else for him, right? So it's not unusual, and by all the indications, the Cardinals are going to draft Kyler Murray 1 overall and move away from Josh Rosen, which is, again, it's incredible, but they're taking advantage of the rookie contract, and all the credit in the world to them if that's the direction they want to see their ball club go into.
Dennis Koulatsos is the SSV on WNST. He'll be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, hosting some radio. Hear it again on Sunday. And, of course, we'll be monitoring all things Terps through the week. We're watching some baseball as well. But I still think the Antonio Brown thing is one of the more fascinating things because we have now the latter-day Terrell Owens. And I vividly remember a long conversation with my business partner, Brian Billick, about how the Ravens were going to coach him up and settle him down and surround him with leadership and tame the lion and all that stuff. God bless the organization that puts Antonio Brown and $18 or $20 million out in front and rolls him out and says, this is the guy. I hope it's not here. I don't think it will be here. But I don't even have to play football. We've now had Johnny Hustle get $300 million last week, and now we have a guy who's among the leaders who quit on his team. Everyone in Pittsburgh would tell you that he lacked accountability when it mattered the most, and now wants to go out into the marketplace and has really been nothing but a jerk personally, right? Like, I mean, just in a general, same thing with Terrell Owens, didn't break the law, but just was a jerk. You know, just a guy you'd rather not have around the dealership, let's we say, right?
You know, the latest example of him being a jerk is that the Steelers owe him $2.5 million roster bonus on March 17th, and they've asked him if he could delay the bonus as they have some cap issues to address, and he said thanks but no thanks, which again, how do you do that? I mean, they have paid him well over space and time. They haven't bounced any checks on him. They're asking him for some consideration. They're going to give him the bonus anyway. They're just asking for a delay in payment, and he's thumbing his nose at him. It's just the latest gesture of disrespect by this player. And I don't know what general manager, I don't know what head coach would want him on their team just based on his antics. Nestor, I find it very hard to believe that he will behave that way.
Well, he is behaving that way, right? And, you know, and everyone has seen it. Everyone. And if you disrespect Mike Tomlin, who are you going to respect? You know what I mean? Like, just literally, if you can't get along with Mike Tomlin and you can't make it work in Pittsburgh and you can't respect the leadership that he, you know, and the Roethlisberger popping, I mean, all that stuff. He's been there a decade. You know what I mean?
No, and you know Mike Tomlin better than most people, right? I've seen you at hockey games with him. You know him on a personal level. I know you well, Nestor. You wouldn't hang out with Mike Tomlin if he wasn't a good man.
Oh, there's any doubt about that. I mean, I think that goes without saying. Mike Tomlin's a good man. I think it also goes without saying that Antonio Brown might not be the juice might not be worth the squeeze, as they say, right?
Look, you couldn't pay me to put him on my team. Put it to you that way. I would pay you to keep him off my team.
Tell them what's going on your team out there, because your team out at Coons Florida Security Boulevard, you don't have anybody like Antonio Brown out there popping off on Facebook.
We have team players. You're not going to catch our guys on social media doing stupid things or saying stupid things or misrepresenting our organization. We just won a Triple Crown, which is like winning the Super Bowl for the second time in 4 years. It was officially announced by Ford Motor Company today.
Nice.
Couldn't be more proud of that. And that's,
today, really? I'm Googling that.
Yep, it's going to be on our website. I already called my advertising people, and only one of 20 stores in the country that has done so. And that's a tribute to our employees, our customers, the referrals, repeat business that we do, and the great brand of Ford Motor Company is. And I couldn't be more proud of representing Ford Motor Company here at Coons Baltimore Ford. 30 acres of fun. We do have a lot of vehicles in our collision center right now. We have a world-class collision center. We're Mercedes-Benz certified, so we fix Mercedes, Fords, Lexuses, you name it, Chevrolets. We do it all here. We're a one-stop shop, Nestor, and business is booming here at Coons Baltimore Ford.
All right, I'm going to be coming out to see you sometime soon. I had a tip on a Pakistani restaurant out your way, so I got to go check that out because you know me. Cool. I love food. Dennis can be found, SSV on WNST, also on Thursday from 3 until 5 here. I'll be joining him as well as Luke Jones, and we're one step closer to the draft, and now that the Combine's done, I'm waiting for your board. I want to see you set your board, Den.
I'm halfway done, actually, and I'm going to have to reset a little bit on the Combine. A couple of players I like didn't perform quite as well. Like the Ravens, I'm going to downgrade them just a bit, and it's always fascinating. Right now, the Ravens have 8 picks heading into the draft. We have a free agency coming up. That'll be also another fascinating aspect of the NFL. We'll watch the first big wave when all the big money gets spent, and then we'll watch Eric DeCosta get to work. And by the way, he's also off to a very good start as new general manager of the Baltimore Ravens. Well,
let's see, how the next couple of weeks go here, because a lot of questions on Suggs and Weddle and who's coming back and who's not, and C.J. Mosley, obviously the big question here this week. We'll be monitoring it all. If there's any breaking news, you will get it first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard, and of course, Dennis will be here on Thursday and through the weekend. You can find me anytime, anywhere. Nasty at WNST.net, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live right here on our Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.